Imagine an era where women's clothes were so big they almost got stuck in doorways. Or imagine an era where people throw their waste on the streets. Or a world where people don't like to bathe. Strange, isn't it? But let me tell you, this is what life was like in the 16th century. So today, we will see what life was like in the 16th century. Before I start, if you are new to the channel and love history, definitely subscribe the History Facts Show and press the bell icon. Thank you. Life in the 16th century was shaped by dramatic changes in politics, religion, society, and culture. In the 16th century, society was divided into strict classes, with each group having its own rights, privileges, and duties. The highest class consisting of kings, queens, dukes, earls, and lords. They were rich, owned large estates, and had a lot of power. Nobles were responsible for governing regions, defending the country in wars, and maintaining order. They often lived in castles or large homes and held privileges, like not having to pay certain taxes. Clergy were in charge of religious services, education, and charity. The Catholic Church especially had control over people's lives and could even influence kings and queens. Most clergy members lived in monasteries or churches, while the higher-ranking clergy lived well. The lower clergy often had modest lives. Most people lived in villages with just a few dozen families. They were spread out and surrounded by farmland. Villages were quiet, with everyone knowing each other. Cities were small compared to today, with a few thousand people at most, except for major centers like London, Paris, and Venice. They were crowded and bustling places with markets, trade, and cultural activities. Houses in villages were smaller and made of wood, clay, or straw. Life was harsh, but the open space and fresh air meant fewer diseases compared to cities. People relied on natural resources for building and heating. Houses in cities were made of wood or stone and built close together. Streets were narrow, dirty, and often full of waste. Sanitation was poor, leading to frequent outbreaks of diseases like the plague. People in cities faced challenges like overcrowding, fires, and crimes. Plague spread quickly in packed communities. However, cities offer more opportunities for work and progress. At the start of the 16th century, the Roman Catholic Church was the most powerful religious institution in Europe. The Pope, based in Rome, was seen as the spiritual leaders of all Christians. Churches, monasteries, and priests were central to community life. Many people felt the Catholic Church was corrupt. Leaders lived in luxury, and practices like selling indulgences angered people. A German monk, Martin Luther, became a key figure in the Reformation. In 1517, he nailed his 95 theses to a church door, criticizing the Catholic Church practices. He believed that faith, not money or church rituals, was the way to salvation. Luther's ideas spread quickly thanks to the printing press. Other leaders like John Calvin and Huldrych Zwingli also promoted new interpretations of Christianity. These movements became known as Protestantism. So Europe became divided. Catholics followed the Pope and traditional teachings, and Protestants believed in simpler worship and direct access to God without priests. In England, King Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church for personal and political reasons. He wanted to divorce his wife, but the Pope refused. This led to the creation of the Church of England, also known as Anglican Church, in 1534. To respond to Protestants' criticisms, the Catholic Church began its own reform. This movement, called the Counter-Reformation, aimed to fix corruption and strengthen faith. In the 16th century, men and women had clearly defined roles. Men were considered the heads of their households. They were responsible for earning money, owning property, and providing for their families. Only men could vote, hold public office, or lead armies. Men were encouraged to learn subjects like law, philosophy, and science. Women were expected to run the household, cook, clean, and raise children. Marriage and motherhood were seen as a woman's main purpose in life. A woman's identity was often tied to her father or husband. They could not inherit property in many places unless there were no male heirs. Noble women might learn to read, write, and play music, but this was rare. Marriages were often arranged by families to secure alliances or improve social standing. Love was not the primary reason for marriage. Practicality and family benefit were. Large families were common, as having many children was seen as a blessing and practical for work on farms. Women could become nuns, but they were still under the authority of male priests. Some women, like Queen Elizabeth I of England, defied these roles by holding significant power. The majority of festivals were linked to the Christian calendar. Christmas, Easter, and All Saints' Day were major celebrations. Celebrated on May 1st, this was a festival to welcome spring. Villagers would raise a maypole, a tall wooden pole decorated with flowers and ribbons, and people would dance around it. Singing, dancing, and games were common. The 16th century saw the rise of public theatre, especially in England during the Elizabethan era. William Shakespeare and other playwrights became popular, with plays performed in outdoor theatres like the Global Theatre. People played chess, cards, dice, and board games. Children enjoyed simpler games like hide and seek and tag. Common sports included archery, wrestling, and early forms of football. Nobles enjoyed hunting, falconry, and horse racing. There was little understanding of germs or infections. People didn't know that bacteria or viruses caused diseases. Many believed diseases were punishment from God for sins. Some thought illness were caused by evil spirits or witchcraft. The bubonic plague was one of the deadliest diseases. It spread through fleas on rats and killed millions. Trained doctors were few and mainly treated the wealthy. Barber surgeons performed surgeries like amputations but without anesthesia, so it was painful. Midwives helped with childbirth. Doctors used leeches or cut veins to remove blood, believing it would restore balance to the humors. Amulets, charms, and prayers were common treatments for diseases. Some people believed in astrology, thinking the position of stars and planets affected health. Diets lacked variety and were often unbalanced. The poor ate bread, porridge, and vegetables, while the rich had more meat and wine. Sewage and garbage were often thrown into the streets. The 16th century saw some early scientific advancement, like the work of Anzi's Vesalius, who studied human anatomy. The Renaissance emphasized education, particularly in the humanism. Wealthy families hired tutors for boys, while girls' education was limited to preparing them for marriage. Universities began to grow, though they were accessible only to men from affluent backgrounds. Social life included music, dances, and festivals. Art, theatre, and literature reflected both religious themes and humanist ideals. So far today, don't forget to tell us how you felt. I really want to know. Let me know in the comments which country lifestyle you want to see next. Thanks a lot for watching the full video. See you in the next video. Stay well.